Welcome to Fast Pace, the new growth, leadership and management podcast featuring Josh Phegan and Dean Mackie. We wanted to peel back the layers on what happens in the world of fast-paced real estate agencies, from new leadership models to the management challenges we all face each day. This is about a new era in the estate agency sector. Rapid changes to business models, service lines, remuneration and growth present the greatest opportunities that we've ever seen. Sit back, get inspired, grow your skills and reimagine what's possible with Fast Pace. Every Friday, wherever you get your podcasts, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts and Josh Phegan Digital. Inside of an organisation, you often have a lot of events to, bring people together. Sometimes they're training events, sometimes they're more social events, sometimes it's about celebration, and other times it's about recognition for what people are actually doing on the inside of your business. So how do you actually go to run a great event? And this is a really important part. Dean, we're involved in lots of them when we go on the training level, and ultimately there's lots of events that go inside of an organisation. You got to make sure that you've got a really good quality checklist and you get really clear about what is the purpose of this event. What are we actually really trying to do? Now, Dean, you're one of the only people I know that actually has like a professional event organiser that actually sits inside of your business. He's a wonderful gentleman, does some amazing work around the business. Tell us a little bit about, what you feel it takes to run a great event on the inside of your business.
Thanks, Josh. Look, I think running strong workplace events fosters a high level of engagement with your team. It can create a lot of team building can go on, and it can develop company culture, right? So there's lots of different reasons why you would do events, and we've gotten really clear around what's the purpose of each event, what we're trying to achieve. And in fact, it's funny because only today, where we were reviewing the 2023 events, we were recalibrating the 2024 events, and we're actually planning the 2025 events because, if you look at it in a calendar, you can sometimes be a bit overloaded on events, and it can become, the wrong timing in terms of business cycle and all sorts of things. And then that can then undermine the purpose of the event and so on. So we sort of ebb and flow. We also get a lot of feedback from the events that we have, and we've got a really good process to get the feedback. And so we never think that one way of doing it's the best way, but we're certainly trying lots of different ways because, while I think there are some definite upsides and some value in running and there is no doubt running good events, there's also some pretty common pitfalls.
Yeah, sure.
If you've poorly planned your events and their impact isn't so good, then you start getting low attendance, you start getting disengagement. You can almost go the other way, right? And I've had that happen too. And so I think you've got to really stop off and go, right, if we're going to do events, whether it be a training event or whether it be an awards event or whether it be, a reward, whatever it is, that event needs to really have a purpose. And I sort of look at it, there are cultural events, there are events specifically about skill development. There's all these different things. And I think that if you're not clear, then that's part of the problem. So I ask ourselves, what are the objectives for the event? And how do I align them with the company goals, right? So, for example, are we trying to team build here? Is it training? Is it employee appreciation? What is it? I mean, we just ran one called Connect, and the idea of that was we sort of minimised a little bit some Christmas parties because it got too busy at the end of the year. And we said, why don't we all try and come back early in the new year and do a Connect event, which is about people connecting, networking, and actually, so it didn't only have the agenda of bringing the teams together to spend some time and sort of create a really nice moment for us and our partner, our supplier partners. We also run another event called Ignite, and the idea of that event is really to ignite and inspire our team around their performance. So that we do 4 or 5 of those a year, and the theme of those events vary depending on what's topical and important at the time, and get really clear about what do we want to achieve in that event. What's the tone? What's the type of people who we've got presenting? How does it work? And then we also have this other one we do called Unlocked, which is also it's a different event, and that's more around company culture, but it's also about the 1%ers and team building and so on. There's a whole range of things that go into that. So we're really clear about what we want those to achieve. So I think you've got to get really clear of that. You then also have to make sure if you're going to do events that you understand what success looks like. Is it participation rate? Is it feedback? Is it, do you want them to come away with some specific competencies or actions? So I think getting clear about what the metrics are pre and post event is really important. If you don't do that, then sometimes these events you do them, you feel good about them, but they don't really achieve much. And the other one is also your target audience. Like sometimes you're speaking if you got content and you're speaking to the wrong audience, you just might not connect the way you want to. So if you've got new hires in your business, new team members, how you're going to talk to them about certain things can be very different to how you might be talking to a group of high performers. Or alternatively, if you've got property managers in the room, the way they like to receive information is very different to how a salesperson wants to receive information. So making sure you understand your target audience and you understand what you're trying to achieve and how they need to be communicated with is really important. So what's in it for them and deliver it in that way. And then, the bit that people forget about, I think, a lot is the logistics that sit behind this stuff. And you are right, we've got some full-time resources and we also have people doing different things. Like I've got some people that produce the content. So, we all produce individual content, but then someone makes sure it's all streamlined and it's all on brand and it's all consistent and, it's all looking pretty good and the way we want it to be. There's also detailed plans with timelines. Like I went through today, step by step, we've got Unlock coming up and it's like a 5-page run sheet of what's happening by the minute, by who and who's going to be where and who's got who's got to play what role and who's going to say what and all of those things because, and it's time framed, right? Because if you don't have all of the logistics planned out, then it could actually be a pretty ordinary experience for the participant, right? And then it's also budgets. Who's paying for it? Where's it come from? How does all that happen? And so that's what we've done. We've gone through and said, okay, we're looking at all those things and actually saying, well, how do we pay for it? How do we make it work? How do we get bang for our buck? And sometimes you actually go, that event's not cutting through. You've got to do a critical analysis of these things. So I think that and then also there's the venues, right? So making sure that the
convenient car parking,
all that stuff, all these little things as to why people may or may not turn up. So I think events, running really good events for training and social events and reward. It comes with a commitment to doing it properly because it can't be sort of half-baked. Otherwise, you just won't get the results that you're looking for.
So I think that, a couple of little things that I've witnessed that either you've done or we've done together, because we've actually spoken at different events together at the same time over in Perth one time. The most important conversation is to say, okay, great, what's the purpose of this particular event? What are the outcomes that we actually want to go and achieve while we're there? What do we need in terms of venue? What resources are sitting behind that? And how do we make sure that everyone who walks in that room feels really confident and really comfortable with the other people that are there? Name tags are a great thing to do because it literally, particularly as a big organisation or someone brand new starting the organisation, they don't know who Dean Mackie is, respectfully, but they do later on. And the most important part is that they don't want to be nervous around maybe someone who could be an important person inside of that business that they've not yet met. Then what I love about that is that literally getting the theming right. And that's what you guys have done particularly well at all the Di Jones ones, is that we just see this incredible theme that literally is built around it, down to the music stingers.
That's a secret down to why we've called these events, they've got names, names they're actually talking to, naming convention. So it's actually talking to what this thing's about, Yes.
And I think that whole conversation then leads you into learn how to use your resources. If someone only needs to be in a room for 45 minutes, man, they're in that room for 45 minutes and then let's move them into a different room or do something else and start to really think about how you're actually getting great people around it and how do you showcase great talent inside of your organisation. One of the things that we've seen you do, some really good panels with other people that are working across the business. Sometimes you might bring in a specific supplier around something, or you might have been in a position where you get some of your leaders in the business that are actually delivering specific 5, 10, 15, 20-minute keynotes to actually lift up that room and to change the way you're doing it. But what's really evident every time is that literally what are the things that are absolutely must be done? We need the values up there. We need to make sure we're clear about the mission, that's up there. We need to make sure the brand actually looks good in lights. And beyond that, we then to make sure that we've got lots of engagement with our team. No session can run longer than 90 minutes, then a little break, a little session for 90 minutes, and then a nice little break, and then again in 90 minutes if you really need to. But thinking about how you can actually shorten and sharpen. Because if you've got people in a room for a long period of time and you're the last keynote speaker, Dean, we've been in that position at some events, and it can be a real drag if you're actually pulling on the energy of the people that are inside of that business.
Well, mate, it's also, we think keynote's the way to go. I think that, there is a time for that setting context, whatever, but increasingly you've got to consider how are you going to get people to interact and engage, it's because if you've got interactive elements and we've built them in different events we've done, the take up and the involvement and the takeaways are so much better. So as an example, I started talking about business planning in a contextual way sort of back in November in one of our Ignite events. And then I continued that context setting in January. And it was always on the basis that I knew that we were going to get to a place in February, March, where then I'd go around to each office and I'd then drive greater depth in the detail of what we're actually talking about. But people had got contextually where they needed to be because I know that it's a half-day session. So I'm rolling it into an hour, and then a 90-minute session, right? And now, and it was a part of a plan that now our sales management team now then cascade that into the one-on-ones to bring to fruition, right? So it was part of a coordinated plan, right? So it's actually thinking about how, and what I found is that, you know, in the moment of them just getting their context set, there's a lot of passive participation. But what I noticed in the last few weeks as I've been in the offices doing the actual nuts and bolts of, you know, SWOT analysis and things like that for people's businesses, and sort of saying, okay, what does your prospecting actually look like? Yeah. You know, you start seeing the aha moments and the action and the people committing to teaching them how to set goals and then getting them to do it, right? Because ultimately we can stand in front of them and tell them to do it till the cows come home, but if they physically don't do it, you don't shift the dial. So trying to understand, you've got to have a bit of a strategy sometimes, you know, around it. You can't always deliver it all in one go, and how do you get people committed to taking action? So for me, I think, you know, there's some tips I'd give people. You know, make sure you have it quite personalised. Make sure you incentivise participation. Encourage networking, and then importantly, get help. Like, you know, build. You know, if you don't have someone in your business that, you know, can manage this stuff for you, then there are experts out there who do. You know, like we've got good relationships with people who do sound and lighting and different things, and they know what we like, so we bring them in, and when we go and check out a venue, we take them with us and say, hey, what can we do here? Or you know what I mean? So I think, you know, what's the impact moments you're trying to create? So I think if you get really clear about that, then, you know, and you're clear about the planning and you're clear about what your objectives are, you can't go wrong.